तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी। जय वृंदे जय वृंदे जय वृंदे जय श्री वृंदे।
What? Oh, I'm not very important. We could take this. No, no, no. Is that better? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asacharya Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamay Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Bhaskatyade Satarane. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Bitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpajubhascha Kripasinabhi Abhatapatitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha. So today is Janmashtami in New Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina. And I have shown this before, but I thought it's no harm with going again through Krishna's appearance, right? Yes? All right. So, of course, we know that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan in the spiritual world. He is always present in Goloka Vrindavan with all of his associates. But there are rebellious souls who are in the material world, which is like a cloud in the spiritual sky. And there in the material world, Lord Vishnu manifests the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And he breathes out all of the universes, which are conglomerations of these different elements. And in each of these universes, he's also manifest. So he's there as Mahavishnu in the great causal ocean, and then within each universe. And from his navel sprouts a lotus flower, on top of which appears Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma enters into the stem of the lotus, from which he manifests all of the various planets. So here we have the whole map. The spiritual world with all the Vaikunthas, and in one little corner, like a little cloud, the material world. And in one of those universes in the material world, among all the billions and billions and billions of planets and stars, there is one little planet called Earth. Once, about 5,000 years ago, the people who were supposed to be the rulers of society were actually demons. Interesting, yes. The rulers are supposed to be rajarshis. They're supposed to be saintly persons, so they can guide humanity materially and spiritually. But these were demons. Demons means they just want to control everyone. It's like they just want to eat everyone. They want you just to be part of them. And the earth is the wife of God, Bhumi Devi. She's meant to give facilities for the living entities to live happily in this world and attain to liberation. And when the rulers of the world, who are supposed to be the main representatives of Krishna, are demons, she feels very overburdened. So she took the form of a cow and she went to see Lord Brahma. He's the chief. And so when something goes wrong, if we can't deal with it ourselves, we go to see the authority, correct? Right? We might try to deal with it ourselves if that's not possible. Okay, who's in charge? So Lord Brahma is available that any of the planetary rulers can come to him with their complaints. Very big job. That's why when Gopakumar became Lord Brahma, he was thinking, I'll do some nice service, I'll see the Lord and Lakshmi as my mother and father. But then he saw there was all these administrative responsibilities. So Lord Brahma is thinking, all right, what to do? And then he remembers that, whenever there's problems, whenever what's supposed to be dharma becomes adharma, what happens? Krishna appears. Everyone. Yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So keeping this in mind, Lord Brahma went to the shore of the ocean of milk. There's a Vaikuntha planet in this universe. And he, with all the demigods, meditated on the Lord. And when he meditated on the Lord, they chanted, what did they chant? The Purusha Shukta. So before asking the Lord anything, one is supposed to first glorify him. You don't just go to the Lord and say, hey, help me out. But first you say how you're wonderful, how you're expanded everywhere, what are your potencies. So we're not going to go through the whole Purusha Shukta, but a few of the verses. The Supreme Lord in the form of the universe has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet, for he contains all the living entities. Actually, Prabhupada says each of us is like a cell in the universal body. Having pervaded the entire universe completely to give it existence, being independent, he extended himself beyond it by 10 fingers. So what does that mean? It means that the Lord is always expanding. Prabhupada will say how Krishna knows everything about himself, and then he expands, and then his knowledge of himself expands, and then he expands, and then so there's always this competition between Krishna expanding and Krishna knowing himself. He's not static, he's ecstatic, he's dynamic. The universes, past, present, and future, are but manifestations of the Supreme Lord who expands himself as the Purusha. In other words, the universes are also his body. He is the Lord of immortality, but has manifest himself as the Purusha in the universe so that the jivas may enjoy material fruits. So Krishna is so kind that he allows us, Eko Bahunam Yovidadati, come on, he allows us to enjoy the results of our desires. The past, present, and future universes are manifestations of the Lord's powers, but the Lord himself is much greater. Just imagine that, how great the universes are, but the Lord is greater. What does Krishna say at the end of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Everything wonderful, beautiful, glorious is just a spark. Spark. A spark. So imagine if you put together all the wonderful, beautiful, glorious, amazing things just on this planet, which is the lowest of the middle planets, and imagine all the beautiful, glorious, wondrous things in the whole universe, and then you put together all the universes, and all that together are just a spark. The material creation is but 1/4 portion, and the eternal nature in the spiritual sky exists in 3/4 portion. Oh, by the way, that's not geographical. It's talking about energies. It's not spatial. The 3/4 portion of the Lord transcended the material portion. The Lord in the 1/4 portion, that's the material world, manifested the universe again, as he had done repeatedly before. The Lord of the 1/4 portion began the work of creation by going all around, taking the form of animate and inanimate objects. So all of us, we're all Vibhinamsa, expansion of the Lord. Everything that we see is an expansion of the Lord. From that Lord, the Virat, or universe, was born, and in that Virat Purusha Paramatma of the universe was born. Having appeared, the Virat Purusha grew and produced the earth and the bodies of the jivas. So we have the great Mahavishnu, we have the Garbhadakshay Vishnu, we have the Kshiradakshay Vishnu, and then producing all the gross and subtle bodies. From the face came the Brahmanas, from the 2 arms the Kshatriyas came into being, from the thighs of the Virat Purusha came the Vaishyas, and from his feet the Shudras were born. Actually, the Shudras are the only Varna who are under the protection of the Lord's feet, because they exemplify this service attitude. The Vaishyas are the thighs because they're the support, like the femur bone is the main bone in the body. Without food, you cannot exist, right? And the arms, they're acting as the Lord's agents to protect, and then the Brahmins act to give guidance. The moon was born from his mind, the sun was born from his 2 eyes, from his mouth were born Indra and Agni, and from his breath Vayu was born. So many devotees in their daily puja recite this is just a few of the verses of the Purusha Sukta. They actually recite all of the verses of the Purusha Sukta. So the demigods, they're chanting the Purusha Sukta, and what do they hear back from the Lord? They don't hear anything. Does that sometimes happen to us? We're praying, we're saying all the mantras, we're doing everything, we're praying, and it's just like, we don't hear anything. Krishna is all honorable, and Srila Rupa Goswami gives the story. Does anyone know the story Srila Rupa Goswami gives to show that the Lord is all honorable? That the demigods have to wait to see him. Right? The servant comes out and says, Indra, can you recite your prayers quietly? You're bothering everybody. Varuna, Krishna doesn't have time to see you today. You have to go home. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, you have to wait. Just like we all know, you go to like a government office or a doctor's office, sometimes you have to wait, right? Because they're in a superior position. They can see you or not. They can talk to you or not. So Krishna doesn't reply to the demigods, but he does reply to Lord Brahma, how? In the heart. And he reassures Lord Brahma, don't worry. I will always come to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So the Lord said, first my elders have to come. First my devotees and expansions of you demigods, you have to come as my elders to prepare the way for me. Okay, so think about this. Vasudeva, Krishna's father, Devaki, Krishna's mother, they are coming. They have to be born. They have to grow up. Let's figure Vasudeva must have been at least like 25 when he marries Devaki. So there's at least 25 years have elapsed now between the time the demigods pray for the Lord to come and the time he appears. And then if you think about it, then which was the child that was going to kill Kamsa? The 8th child. So then we're talking about at least another 8 years. Yes, so what are we at now? How many years have elapsed? Like 33, right? And then Krishna's 11 before he goes back to Mathura and kills Kamsa, so we're talking 44. And that's not even all the demons, that's just Kamsa. That's quite a while before Jarasandha, etc. was killed, the Battle of Kurukshetra. So sometimes Krishna's response appears to us to be delayed, yeah? The demigods pray and they say, are you coming? Oh yes, I'm coming. All right, we'll take care of this. But it takes a long time, and sometimes we see this in our own lives, isn't it? There's something we need, something we pray for, and things are moving in the Lord's own way and at the Lord's own time. So when Vasudeva married Devaki, her cousin brother Kamsa drove the chariot to take her to her husband's house. And there was a big procession. These were great rulers of the earth. There were elephants and horses and chariots and servants coming. Right? Very joyous, wonderful occasion. And they're pure devotees. They know we're coming to serve the Lord and everything happy. And then, Kamsa, you're such a fool. Do you think people like that like to be told that they're a fool? Do any of you like to be told that you're a fool? What about publicly? Imagine in the middle of the Janmashtami festival if there was a big, Urmila, you are a fool. And everybody in the whole Janmashtami festival could hear it. I'd slink off to my room, right? And imagine how Kamsa would feel, such an arrogant person. You're driving the chariot of your sister and brother-in-law, but you don't know that their 8th child will kill you. In other words, you're facilitating your own death, you idiot. Now, I want you to think about this also from the platform of Vasudeva and Devaki, because what does Kamsa immediately do? He takes out his sword to cut off Devaki's head. So it's not that if you're a pure devotee and you're part of the Lord's pastimes, everything is just woo, flowers and, gold-paved streets. She's in immediate danger of death. And Vasudeva thinks, okay, I've got to protect my wife and my upcoming children. What am I going to do? So he preaches to Kamsa. He preaches to him about the nature of the soul, how we're not this body. Everybody has to die. Why are you so afraid of death? Does this have any effect on Kamsa? Does this have any effect on him? No, none at all. By the way, when we're very frightened of imminent danger to ourselves or very upset emotionally, does philosophy have much effect on us? No, we can't really hear it very well. And we're so wrapped up in these intense emotions. But Vasudeva, interestingly enough, he doesn't become bewildered. Now, you could say he's under as much or more stress as Kamsa, because his newly married wife is about to be killed, and his whole mission for coming to earth is about to be thwarted, but he can remain peaceful. And it's really interesting, Srila Prabhupada says something in Krishna book, something that Radhanath Swami quotes a lot. A saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions of life. A learned man can discharge his duties without awaiting favorable circumstances. A heinous person like Kamsa can act in any sinful way, and a devotee can sacrifice everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how is it that Vasudeva is not affected in the same way that Kamsa is? It's that he's able to act on a platform separate from the body and mind. Now, sometimes devotees think that the way to deal with these horrific situations is like you just repress all the emotions, but that's not what it is. The idea is you transcend them. You go to the point of an observer of them, and you focus on your service to the Lord. So finally, Vasudeva, not being able to convince Kamsa philosophically, decides to use diplomacy and negotiation. And he says, you know what? Look, it's not, Devaki's not the problem. It's the children that are the problem. You don't need to kill Devaki. I'll tell you what, I'll bring you my children, and I'll not just bring you the 8, I'll bring you all the children, and you can do with them whatever you like. And then Kamsa decides, well, Vasudeva is very honest. I can trust him. There's a book, I haven't read it, but my co-author quotes from it in our Career Dharma book, a book called The Speed of Trust. And from what I understand, the basis of it is that the most important thing in our relationships with others is trust. And when a demon like Kamsa even can trust someone, just imagine how trustworthy they are. Our word should be impeccable, yes? What we promise, what we give our word to, like we take our vows of initiation, our marriage vows. But even in ordinary things, if we say, I'm going to be there at 3 o'clock to help you with something, we should be there. It's not a promise, but we should be there at 3 o'clock, right? Unless there's something out of our control, in which case then we make another arrangement. We don't just like not show up. You follow? Yes? Not that we say, well, I'm going to dress the deities today, or I'm going to cook the milk sweets, or I'm going to do this, and then, I can just forget about it. We should be people who can be trusted. Trusted with how we handle money, trusted with how we deal with relationships with the opposite sex, trusted with what we say we're going to follow through on, trusted that our dealings are basically going to be ethical. So Kamsa's happy with this, and Vasudeva brings him his firstborn child, which astonishes Kamsa actually. Even though he knew that Vasudeva was trustworthy and truthful, still he was a little surprised. Wow, you've really followed through. You've really brought me your child. And he says, I don't need to worry about this child. It's the 8th child. I appreciate you're doing this. You're going above and beyond, but I really don't have any danger from the first child. You can take him back. And Vasudeva was thinking just the opposite. He's thinking, I can't trust Kamsa. I can't trust Kamsa. What he says, he's not going to do. And this is the nature of the demons. Right? For their own sense gratification, they're happy to break their promises, break their word, they're mostly interested in their own power and security. So the Narada Muni wants to kind of mix things up, and he does this. And he comes to Kamsa and he says, Kamsa, you shouldn't actually be so kind. So why is Narada Muni doing this? He wants to speed things along. Remember we said it's 45 years between the time the demigods complain and the time Kamsa gets killed. So he's like, hey, let's accelerate this a little bit. Let's push things to show how demoniac Kamsa is. And a similar thing happens in the Mahabharata with the disrobing of Draupadi, which really shows everyone how evil Duryodhana and Dursasana and Karna are. So people aren't going to say, well, did there really have to be a war? Maybe they weren't so bad. And so Narada Muni is coming and saying, hey, you know what, Kamsa? You know how the demigods are your enemies. Well, the Yadu dynasty is full of demigods. They've come here, right? Mars was talking about this yesterday, right? How the demons have come to the earth. This is a part of their battleground. So the demigods have come, and they're in the family of Vrishni. And by the way, even though the voice said it would be the 8th child, look, any of the children could be Vishnu. And I want to tell you that in your previous life, on the shore of the ocean of milk, in the great battle between the demigods and the demons, right? Incredible. This is one of my favorite stories, incredible story. This story is very, very popular in Southeast Asia. So a lot of, like in the Bangkok airport, there's this huge sculpture of the demigods and the demons churning the milk ocean and then fighting over the nectar. This is a perpetual battle. And in that battle, you can see on the lion, that's Kalanimi riding on the lion, and he's killed by Lord Vishnu. So Narada Muni said, in your last life, Lord Vishnu killed you. And you know what? He's going to get you again. So you better do something about this. So then Kamsa becomes very determined in his demoniac activities, and he puts Vasudeva and Devaki in jail. He figures, well, even though Vasudeva came and gave me his first child, I'm not even sure. I want to make, like Macbeth said, or Macbeth's wife, I want to make surety doubly sure. So I don't want to just trust him. I want to put him in jail. That way I can keep an eye on him and make sure that I kill all of these children. And of course he killed the first child. Now you would think that after killing the first child, why would Vasudeva and Devaki keep having children that they know Kamsa is going to kill? Because they're there to do the mission of the Lord. And they know that their 8th child's going to be Krishna. I mean, imagine having this as your service. So those of us who are parents, you know, imagine that you're giving birth to children who you know that Kamsa is going to kill in front of you, with the hope that Krishna is going to appear as your. What an incredible service. I mean, sometimes I know myself, I think, Krishna, do you really want me to do this service? It's so difficult, and people criticize me for it, and you know, and I complain about something, right? But what kind of service do the pure devotees do? I mean, what are they willing to do for Krishna? What situations are they willing to put themselves in for Krishna? It's unimaginable, actually, to see your own newborn children killed in front of you. Of course, there's as usual in the Shastra, there's a story behind the story, and also this story, although it's literal, it can also be understood metaphorically. So Srila Prabhupada explains that Devaki's fear of Kamsa was like fear of material association. So most of us are not afraid enough of Maya, Prabhupada would say. We're thinking, oh, I can play with Maya here and there, and this way and that way, and I'm still a devotee, and it's all right, and it, you know. But Devaki was completely afraid of forgetting Krishna and illusion in the form of Kamsa. And these 6 children of hers, actually metaphorically, were representations of lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and madness, which you could say are the core of all of our anartas. Now, these 6 children in their previous lives were the sons of Kalanimi. So these were Kamsa's sons in his previous life. These were the grandsons of Hiranyakashipu. And just see the mentality of the demons. These grandsons of Hiranyakashipu wanted to do they were doing austerities to please Lord Brahma, like Hiranyakashipu had done, but without Hiranyakashipu's permission. So because they were taking up austerities without his permission, he cursed them to be killed by their own father in their next life. So Kamsa's thinking, I'm killing Devaki and Vasudeva's children. He's actually killing jivas with whom he himself had a relationship. So after these 6 sons were killed, then Lord Balaram enters Devaki's womb. So Balaram is the original guru. He's the guru principle. And just like guru brings us to Krishna, so Balaram is preparing the way for Krishna to appear. He's preparing Devaki's womb for Krishna to enter it. And then under the instructions of Yogamaya, Devaki appears to have a miscarriage, and the embryo is transferred to the womb of Rohini, one of Vasudeva's wives who is waiting in Vrindavan while Vasudeva is in prison. And it says in the Bhagavatam, practically all of Vasudev's wives were in Vrindavan. Then Yogamaya herself enters Yasoda in Vrindavan. So Nanda and Yasoda, Nanda and Vasudeva are cousins. They have the same grandfather, and so they are related. So one of them has a Kshatriya father and a Kshatriya mother, and one has a Kshatriya father and a Vaishya mother. So they're very, very close. Sometimes it's considered like Vasudeva and Nanda were practically feeling like brothers, not just cousins. So anyway, Yogamaya enters the body of Yasoda. And then Krishna himself, he enters Vasudeva's mind, and then the mind of Devaki, and then the moon of Devaki. And this is considered to be Devaki's initiation by her husband. So now Devaki is pregnant with the Supreme Lord. And although she's in prison, the demigods are coming to offer her prayers. Now because she's in prison, even though she's carrying the Supreme Lord, it's not obvious to people in general. She's not walking around, she's in jail. So it's compared to a suppressed fire, right, or a misused education, we're not able to appreciate it. She's not able, like generally when something wonderful happens, we want to tell our friends, right? Today we're going to post it on social media. Right? But she can't share this with anybody. But even though she can't externally share it with anybody, all the demigods come and offer prayers, and we don't have time to go through all of the prayers, I'm just going to look at one of them. But these are wonderful, wonderful prayers by the demigods offered to Krishna in the womb of Devaki. Now the one prayer I'm going to look at is also, interestingly enough, prayed by Lord Brahma in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, when the Lord shows that the cowherd boys and the calves that Lord Brahma stole are all Vishnu. So Lord Brahma says a similar prayer in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. So the demigods say that the material world is just like an ocean. It's like a vast ocean. So those of us, I'm sure everyone here has seen the ocean. We're not that far away here in Hillsborough. So you go to the ocean, it's huge. And if you're crossing the ocean, like Prabhupada crossed in a boat, if we cross in a boat or on a plane, it takes so many hours. It's such a large ocean. The material world, it seems insurmountable, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem insurmountable? All of our material desires, all of our anarthas, all of our struggles, all of our bad quality. It just seems insurmountable. But there's a boat to cross the ocean. And saintly persons cross this ocean of material life in a boat. And they attain the lotus feet of Krishna. But the demigods say there's something very peculiar about this boat. Does anyone know what they say? What's really strange about this boat? Yeah. It's left at the shore. It doesn't work like that. If you get in a boat and you cross the ocean, like Prabhupada got in a boat in Calcutta, yeah? And ended up in Boston. Then the boat's not in Calcutta anymore. It's gone. It's in Boston. But how is it the saintly persons get in this boat and they go to Krishna, but the boat is still there? How is that possible? And what is this boat? This boat is the lotus feet of Krishna. So please listen very carefully. This is extremely important. The demigods don't say you have to get in the boat. They say you have to just go toward it. You have to approach the boat. You just have to meditate on Krishna's lotus feet, and then something really interesting happens to this ocean. Is everybody ready? Everybody ready? You count with me, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Becomes a puddle. So as soon as you just approach this boat of Krishna's lotus feet, the whole ocean becomes a puddle. A very small puddle. And you just step over it without practically even noticing it. Then, throughout the earth, there was a feeling of peace and prosperity. Everywhere and within the minds of everyone, there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were full, the lakes were decorated with lotus flowers. Birds were singing with sweet voices.
The wind was carrying the aroma of different flowers. The sensation of bodily touch was very pleasing. The Brahmins' minds became full of joy because they could hear transcendental vibrations in the sky proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Jayamane Janardhane Devakyam Devarupinyam Vishnu Sarva Guhashaya
Then Krishna appeared in Kamsa's prison with 4 arms, with a full head of curly hair, decorated with garments and ornaments. So Devaki and Vasudeva had actually performed thousands of years of austerities in their previous lives. And now finally they were becoming the parents of the Lord. They prayed to the Lord, and one of Devaki's prayers was, "Oh dear Lord, Kamsa is going to kill you." This is also fascinating to me. You would think she would say, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Can you kill Kamsa now? He's about to come." But she doesn't say that. She has this maternal mood, and she says, "Kamsa is going to kill you. Can I try to protect you? Can you protect yourself? Can you just look like an ordinary child?" And then the Lord tells them about their austerities in their previous births and how this was the 3rd time he has appeared as their child. And he says, "Take me across the Yamuna and exchange me with the daughter of Yasoda." So Vasudeva takes the child. He notices the shackles have come off, the prison doors have opened, the guards have fallen asleep, and he leaves Devaki in the prison and goes to cross the Yamuna. And I'm sure Devaki was thinking, will I ever see my Krishna again? Now imagine doing austerities for thousands of years, coming to the earth, having Kamsa kill all your children. Finally, Krishna comes and then he leaves. Will I ever see him again? And Vasudeva takes Krishna across the Yamuna. It's the rainy season. Anantasesh comes as a huge umbrella. And everybody's sleeping in Vrindavan. Yasoda has given birth alone in the middle of the night, and she's fast asleep. And Vasudeva sees the little girl. And here we have what must be a great difficulty in Vasudeva's heart, to leave your child like this, to have Krishna, and just put Krishna down and take the other child and walk away. And he takes the little girl back across the Yamuna and goes back into the prison cell. When the doors close, the shackles go back on, the guards wake up, and the baby cries. At which point the guards tell Kamsa, Kamsa, the death of your life has been born. Kamsa gets up in the middle of the night and runs to the prison and grabs the child out of Devaki's hand. And Devaki, who is Kshatrani and skilled in the arts of diplomacy herself, she says, my dear brother, don't kill this girl. A girl's not supposed to kill you. It's supposed to be my 8th son. You don't have any danger for this girl. When she grows up, she can marry your son. She can become your daughter-in-law. Don't kill her. Give her to me as a gift. And Kamsa's like, I'm not taking any chances. And he takes the child and goes to bash her against the wall. At which point she appears as Durga. And again, Kamsa is called a fool. She says, you fool! The child that will kill you has already taken birth somewhere else. Why be so cruel to your poor sister? At which Kamsa decides that even the demigods speak lies if the child has been born someplace else. And he profusely apologizes to Vasudeva and Devaki. Of course, these apologies of demons don't mean very much. You understand? Right. They're not real apologies. He tells them, look, this was your destiny. I'm just acting as an instrument of your destiny. You know, really sorry about that. And he feels some repentance, but it's not deep. What is he not looking at? He's not looking at his own selfishness, you follow? He's saying, I'm sorry I did that, but I'm not really a bad person. Right? I read once about this daughter of a serial killer said her father wrote to her from jail, you know, look, I'm really a nice guy. I just made some mistakes. So that's the general mood of the demons, right? I'm a nice person. I just, I make some mistakes. Whereas the devotees, they say, sometimes I may do the right thing, but in my heart is all this selfishness. They're able actually to see their selfishness. So Kamsa's repentant at first, but then, of course, his demoniac friends gradually rile him up again, and he sends all these demons to kill Krishna later on. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Yamuna, there's a great celebration that after so long, Nanda and Yasoda have a child. They have this wonderful baby boy. You don't have to apologize, Prabhu, it's fine. And they're having this huge celebration in Vrindavan of Krishna's appearance, just like we're having today. We're having a big celebration of Krishna's appearance. And of course, then Krishna grows up in Vrindavan. Let's get a little glimpse of some of Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. So, of course, we know that Krishna does eventually go back to Mathura and kill Kamsa and rid the earth of its burdens because And of course, we are celebrating this and knowing about these pastimes, knowing of Krishna's divinity. Everything that we have here is by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. So we have a few minutes. We have about 5 minutes for questions, comments, discussions, additions, subtractions. How many prayers are in the Purusha Sukta? I do not know offhand. I can look it up. If you send me a message, I'll look it up for you. And I can send you the whole thing if you want. Just send me a message so I don't forget.
So the Purusha Sutta was sung. The Purusha Sukta, I'm sorry about my ignorance, was a song from the demigods to Krishna or to Brahma?
To Vishnu.
To Vishnu, okay.
There's a Vaikuntha planet in this universe, and they go to the shore of the ocean of milk there, and they were singing the whole Purusha Sukta before they asked him, please come and kill the demons on earth.
Thank you.
As I say, that is a standard part. There are many, many devotees. Like the traditional worship, one chants the whole Purusha Sukta. It's long.
If Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, then why did he come from Mathura?
Oh, I don't know, Drishti, but that always bothers me. I don't like it that Krishna goes to Mathura. I'm like, what's he
Comes from
doing
Mathura.
going to Mathura? Well, he starts in Mathura and then he goes to Mathura. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I mean, the Acharyas, they say that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan in the spiritual world. So he can be both in the spiritual world and he can appear on this planet. He can appear in all the universes. And Prabhupada says that Krishna always remains in Vrindavan in his bhava expansion, that the devotees' ecstasy always have him in Vrindavan. I mean, I'll tell you frankly, that doesn't satisfy me. I want Krishna to just be in Vrindavan. I don't want him going off to all these other places. But actually, if you go to Vrindavan even now, Krishna is still there. Of course, in one sense, Krishna is everywhere. Right? But he's there in his original playful mood. Yes.
Masaji, thank you for the class. For the advent of Kalki, do the demigods again chant the Purusha Sukta?
I don't know. When Kalki appears, if the demigods. That's a very interesting question. I'll have to look that up. Does anyone know the answer to that? Do the demigods chant the Purusha Sukta for Kalki? No? Okay. I'll have to send me a message also. Remind me that I should look that up. Otherwise, I may forget.
Or any of the incarnations.
Well, that we know, like, say, with Varaha, that's a really interesting appearance, where the demigods are complaining to Lord Brahma in that case also, and they don't go to Swetatdweep in that Leela. Just Lord Brahma's thinking about it, and he says, I can't deal with this demon. The Almighty Lord has to protect us. And as soon as he thinks that, the Lord takes birth from Lord Brahma's nose as a little tiny boar, and then so they're not chanting any. Lord Brahma's just thinking like that and saying like that to the demigods. Of course, that's not an appearance on the earth exactly. I mean, Lord Varaha is rescuing. He's much bigger than the earth, and he's rescuing the earth. A little different way of appearance. Yes. According to my watch, I have 2 more minutes. Okay. So we have 5 more minutes. Right. Okay. I don't know the number, and you're looking it up.
Purusha Sukta is seen in all the Vedas with little differences. Purusha Sukta in Rig Veda has 16
16 in the
mantras.
Rig Veda.
And in the Mahabharata, the most commonly used portion of the Sukta contains 24 mantras or stanzas. So I guess different.
So somewhere between 16 and 24 mantras in the whole total mantras. Yes, Maharaj.
Where did you find this? Where did you find this?
Over there. Anadi Krishna.
Oh, sorry.
Mike. Well, but the people online get upset. The people online get upset if they can't hear you. Okay. They
The question is,
want to hear your question.
the question is, can you please explain how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Krishna actually was born in Vrindavan, and it was an expansion of Krishna that actually appeared from
Okay, so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation, which as far as I know, he's the only acharya who says that. Srila Prabhupada does mention it in a purport that Krishna simultaneously appeared from Yasoda in Vrindavan, that Yasoda had actually given birth to twins. I don't usually tell that in the story because Prabhupada mentions it just in one purport as like an aside, as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's his own opinion and his own take on things. And Srila Prabhupada consistently, I mean absolutely consistently, except for that one purport, always talks about Yasoda and Nanda as Krishna's foster parents and Devaki and Vasudeva as Krishna's real parents. So he consistently tells the Leela the way it's told in the Bhagavatam. Of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is an acharya. We also accept that his point of view is also valid. So then you're going to explain that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So who leaves Vrindavan is Vasudeva Krishna. It's Krishna's expansion. But ostensibly, if you're there in Vrindavan on earth when Krishna's having his pastimes in Mathura and Dwarka, you look around and you don't see him. He's a Prakrita, yes. He's still there, but you can't see him. But even the great devotees who were there couldn't see him. You know, like when Uddhava comes to talk to the residents of Vrindavan, and he's talking to Nanda and Yasoda, and Yasoda doesn't even say anything. She's just crying all the time. She can't even talk to him. That's also true. Sometimes he is manifest, yes. Maharaj is saying when Vrajanabha comes, then Krishna is manifest, for those of you who are online. Yes, and Sanatana Goswami saw Krishna there in the Srila of Raghunath Das Goswami. So even today, you go to Vrindavan, you can see Krishna. But generally, the residents of Vrindavan, when Krishna's in Mathura or Dwarka, they generally look around and there's like, where's Krishna? I mean, when Uddhava says to Nanda Maharaj, basically, hey, you know, stop just grieving. Why don't you get out of your house? Like if someone's grieving, you might say, you know, get out, do some things, go some places, take your mind off of it. And Nanda Maharaj says, everywhere I go, I just see, oh, Krishna did this over here, Krishna did this over here, Krishna did this over here. But where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Of course, there's that funny conversation between Nanda and Yasoda, where Yasoda is yelling at Nanda Maharaj and telling him, why did you leave Krishna in Mathura? What's wrong with you, you hard-hearted father? And then Nanda Maharaj says, stop screaming, you crazy woman. Don't you see Krishna's right in front of you?
But Uddhava doesn't say, well, why don't you just take a rickshaw over to Mathura?
Now that's also interesting. And the answer for me is in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where in Gopakumar is in the spiritual world, where Krishna also comes and goes to Mathura. And he says, I would rather be in Vrindavan in separation than go to join Krishna in Mathura. He says, the happiness of being in Vrindavan in separation dances on the heads of all other happiness.
So it's a totally different mood in Mathura.
Yes, it's a completely different mood. It's going down in mood. It's a different mood. They don't want that. Well, they don't see that that's where Krishna is going to be happiest. Like when the residents of Vrindavan see Krishna at Kurukshetra during the eclipse, you know, they're like, we want to take you back to Vrindavan. How are you going to be happy in Dwarka? And that's the whole Rath Yatra festival, you know. That's Lord Chaitanya's prayer at the Rath Yatra. You know, we're meant to enjoy under the trees and in the forest of Vrindavan. What are you doing in this royal opulence? Come where you can be the most happy. Because even when Krishna's in Dwarka and Mathura, you know, he's going around as the prince and everything. But then when he's alone and by himself, he's just thinking, when will I be able to go back to the residence of Vrindavan? When will I be with Nanda and Yasoda? When will I be with Srimati Radharani? When will I be with Subal and Sridham? I'm simply separated from those